B-E-A-L-L, Harris County Homicide. He'll be giving the sound. And here he comes now. We'll get everything started. B-E-A-L-L.
B-E-N-B-E-A-L-L, but it's pronounced Bell.
Bell.
Sarge, you are giving sound.
Yeah, apparently so. I got a captain and lieutenant out here. They probably. Okay, it's I should catch it. It's Sergeant Ben Bell. It's B-E-A-L-L, the Harris County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit. Apparently this started on Saturday, the 24th, about 5:50 p.m. Deputies responded to the Derby at Steeple Crest Apartments located at 11220 West Road in reference to gunshots in the area. When the deputies arrived on the scene, they met with one of the tenants, which lived next door in the apartment adjacent to our scene this afternoon. Deputies arrived on the scene. The people that lived in the apartment reported hearing gunshots and that a bullet entered their apartment through a common sheetrock wall. When the deputies got out here, they recovered a partial bullet projectile. They attempted to make contact with the next door neighbors where it appeared that the bullet had come through the wall. They were unable to make contact with the neighbors. They checked with the office. They were unable to make contact with management. The deputies generated a police report at that time. Today at about 11:15 a.m., the tenants contacted the management, who contacted the courtesy officer. They came over here, and the apartment next door to where the bullet penetrated the wall, the management tried to make contact with the tenants over there, were able to make contact with them. They jumped the fence and were able to see what appeared to be a body laying on the floor inside the next door apartment. They made forced entry into the apartment where they located two black females. One of them, I believe, is 23 years of age, and the other one is 27 years of age. Inside the apartment, we have about 4 or 5 shell casings inside the apartment and did locate a firearm inside the apartment. At this point in our investigation, it appears that this is going to be a murder-suicide. We are waiting for the medical examiner's office to arrive. We have not positively identified our 2 victims at this point. And like I said, we are waiting for the medical examiner's office to arrive to the apartments here, and probably will be tomorrow before our 2 victims are positively identified.
Sergeant Bell?
We don't know at this point. We're believing they're just roommates.
Sergeant Bell, can you go over procedure? I mean, why was it more done to make contact with the original apartment where the shot came from on the day that this happened Saturday?
Well, I know that there's 2 glass doors. It's a little hard to tell. It almost looks like it's 2 separate apartments over there. The deputies tried to make contact with the people living in the apartment. It's not real clear if that bullet could have come from a different location at this point. But they did check with the apartment. They tried to make contact with the management, and they tried to gain access to the apartment without making forced entry into the apartment. And that's how management had to make entry today, because the deadbolt lock was locked, and then there's a privacy lock that is on the door. So they had to actually kick the door in to make entry into the apartment today.
And they did not force entry on Saturday because they weren't completely sure if the shot came from that apartment?
Correct.
So can you clarify as far as today, if you could repeat one more time, who was it that made the call for y'all to come back out?
You have back-to-back apartments on the first floor of the apartment complex. They share a common wall between the 2 apartments. So on Saturday, the deputies were dispatched to the apartment next door, where the bullet came through the common wall into their apartments. It's pretty high up, and so it could have come from upstairs. It could have come from outside. At this point, it's just really hard to tell where that projectile came from. They did make an effort to contact the immediate next door neighbors that share the common wall. They tried to contact apartment management to see if they could get a hold of a manager or somebody, a key holder that could gain access into the apartment. The only thing they didn't do was force entry into the apartment, since they weren't receiving an answer or anything. So they didn't want to make forced entry, and then possibly you have a apartment that is unsecured at that point, and they weren't really sure where the bullet came from at that point. Today, the tenants who had the bullet enter their apartment contacted apartment management, who contacted their courtesy officer. Upon further examination, they actually jumped the fence and were able to see what looked to be a body on the floor inside the neighbor's apartment. And at that point, they made forced entry into the neighbor's apartment, where they located the two victims.
What time of day was that, Saturday? And you believe the murder-suicide occurred on Saturday?
Yeah, it was approximately 10 minutes to 6 p.m. or 7:50 p.m. I'm sorry, 5:50 p.m. when the original call came in, and then today deputies were contacted about 12:15 p.m. and once they located the two decedents in the apartment.
You said there were 4 or 5 bullet casings. Does it appear the shooting victim was chased down and shot?
Well, it's kind of hard to say at this point. Crime scene's still in the apartment. We're waiting on the medical examiner's office to get here, but like I said, we've got probably 4 or 5 spent shell casings. We have some live rounds that were ejected, and we do have a pistol on the scene that seems to be consistent with our shell casings.
Are you aware of any previous calls to this apartment?
I ran it before I came out here. I wasn't seeing any. It's kind of the way they enter the calls for service to these apartments. They'll have the main address of 11220 West Road, and then they'll hyphenate it and then put the apartment number. But you have so many people moving in and out of apartments, it's kind of hard to tell if they entered it the same or if it was just called to the apartments. So what I was specifically looking for were calls for service out here for the month of February. And so we're going to have to do some more search on the address, and once we are able to run the victims' names to see if we have any calls for service or reports naming them specifically.
Would you say that everything was done properly on Saturday with the delay until today?
I haven't had an opportunity to read the report that was generated. I do know that the deputies that were out here generated a report, and that's probably, and I haven't had a chance to read that report yet, and that's probably a question that would be better directed towards the patrol units that were patrol supervisors out in this.
Are the bullet casings and the crime scene limited to one room or several?
It's a one-bedroom, or I guess it's a two-bedroom apartment, but it's a pretty large apartment, and we did locate shell casings in about 2 different rooms.
And you said you believe they're roommates?
That's what we understand.
What rooms were they found in?
They're found in the bedroom.
All right, thank you.
And as far as you know, they're not a couple?
I have nothing. Yeah, I have nothing to base that on. So.
Thank you, Sarge.
Okay.
Thank you, Sergeant Bell.
Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, Deputy Gill.
They're on the first floor, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Van.
Sure.
Good as usual.
Department.
It's